Hey, what's up, everyone? Ben Standig here, coming to you live from US Bank Stadium. Just got done with my writing portion here and heading out to the airport a little bit, but I wanted to check in. Uh, yeah, 31 to nothing. As Terry McLaurin said, it's not even a bad day at the office. It's just bad. And he's not wrong on that. And whatever other criticisms coming their way, it's really well deserved after a brutal performance on both sides of the ball, not to mention two notable injuries, Jaden Daniels and Zach Ertz. While Daniels appears to have avoided anything significant and could play again perhaps as soon as next week, Zach Ertz probably lost for the season with a torn ACL. So, um, brutal. Obviously, you guys here in the comment section, you got anything to add, fire away and do what I can here to to help soften the blow. But there's really not much to say. As much as somebody told me a long time ago, the thing I'd made some comment about, boys is around bottom or something like that, whatever team I was covering, and they're like, never say that. You never know what's going to come tomorrow. It can always get worse. And for a team that lost 7 in a row, that had that stretch of consecutive losses by at least 21 points, like you wouldn't think things could get worse. And I thought that the notion that the defense had improved over the last 2 weeks was a little bit overblown, but okay. Back-to-back overtime games, both losses, but back-to-back overtime games, at least gave the appearance of some development, some growth, some better cohesion. That all blew up today against a team in Minnesota with quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who, according to Next Gen Stats, I mean, he drafted last year, got hurt, and has only played this season, had started 6 games before today, that before going into this, that he had the worst QB rating of any QB quarterback with at least 36 quarterbacks this season with at least 5 starts, and had the worst QB rating of any first-round quarterback since 2000. And that guy today, on the first 2 drives, went 9 of 10, 99 yards, and a touchdown. The Vikings won at 14-0. The second drive of the game, you know, you could have taken a metro ride from Bethesda into DC, and in the same amount of time, the Vikings drove down the field, 12-minute drive, 19 plays, and that came right after Washington got stopped at the 1 yard line, at the 2 yard line on on uh on fourth down. They had first and goal for Chris Rodriguez ran into the 2, then 3 consecutive incompletions, 1 attempt at Brandon Coleman, and then 1 on fourth down to Deebo Samuel. The ball was there. It looked like he was stumbling before he could get to it, and it hit his hands and fell down. And then they go on that drive. Dan Quinn said after the game, asked about that. He said, "Yeah, that was a turning point in this game." Sure. The emotional turning point, I think, for a lot of people, of course, came in the third quarter when Daniels gets blocked. He throws an interception. Andrew Van Ginkel either had a great read on something that he saw in scouting, but he immediately jumped forward on a pass attempt to Terry McLaurin on 4th and 1. It was one of those deals where Daniels took the shotgun snap, immediately threw left. Terry sort of geeked like he was running, then stopped, took a step back. Van Ginkel was right there, tipped the ball to himself, and as he's running down the field and Daniels is chasing him, the quarterback Isaiah Rodgers made a beeline for Daniels. If a quarterback is out there, the defenders love taking a shot. It was a clean hit. It wasn't even necessarily that hard of a hit, but he pushed Daniels down. He lands on that left elbow that he dislocated a month ago. Well, it was interesting, and we didn't get a great answer on this, but right before, a couple plays before that, there was you recall Seattle hit Daniels, forced the fumble, recovered it, but then they were called for 12 men on the field. As the refs were sort of sorting out what was happening, Daniels went towards the sideline. Some trainers came out, and they were checking. It looked like they were checking his the brace he had on his left elbow. I don't know if they were adjusting it or he was feeling some pain or what have you, but he that happened. Then a few plays later is when he got hit, fell to the ground, goes off the field, goes into the blue medical tent. gets checked out, does not come back. Was listed as questionable. Now, Dan Quinn did tell us that Daniels could have gone back in, but that he chose to sit him out because, as a team, he could tell that they were just off and things were not going their way. Um, the Vikings had increased it to 17-0 before Daniels could even have come back. Then Mariota comes in, throws an interception, and everything further unraveled from there. We're at the point where I see we got a question here about the length of Dan Quinn's contract. Um, yeah, look, they're going to have some tough decisions. Not, I don't necessarily mean in terms of firing Dan Quinn, but I do wonder if this thing can, like, I would like to believe that they decided to play Jaden Daniels for the noble reasons they've admitted, basically um, more development for him, only his second year. And, look, as we know, they didn't have their offense together. When he completed a pass to Terry McLaurin for 28 yards in the first drive, that was the first time they had completed a pass, connected with each other in week two. Week two. So they wanted to see what this offense could look like. I mean, not that we didn't see it last year, but, everything here was such a mess. Let's see what it looks like with all the pieces back. Harry came back last week. Noah Brown comes back this week. Factor in that Sam Cosmi missed the early part of the season, and they would have 10 of their 11 projected starters on the field. But they have not really had, I guess you could argue, since week two when Eckler was in and Cosmi was out. Those are the reasons why. Now, I wonder, part of me, is if in the back of somebody's head did somebody think, hey, we need a win. Not just because it would be great to feel a win, but we can't go into this offseason having lost. What the hell would it be? 3-2. They've lost like 12 in a row. We can't do that. Well, it's now 8. The last 4 games are against division opponents. The Giants have their own problems. So, you know, just like this week, I'm sure we're going to say next week, hey, this is a get right game. I'm sure the Giants feel the same way. It's on their home ground. So, you know, it's to say that Washington is going to be the team that comes out ahead on that front. Sorry, I'm you can see the still at the stadium, and heard somebody. I thought I heard somebody call my name. In any event, what do you do if you lose? If they end here having lost 12 in a row? Because the 3 games after the Giants, of course, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. The Eagles certainly have things to play for, and Dallas has been playing a lot better, even though they lost on Thursday to Detroit. But they've generally been playing a lot better, and their offense is miles better than Minnesota's offense. You would maybe not today because Minnesota's offense they look pretty good against this defense, but that's the rub. Like there is a lot here that's concerning without a doubt. Defensively, it's odd to sort of say played that they were better than the offense, but guess on some level, I would say maybe they were. But once basically they got crushed on 3rd down on that 12-minute drive. Yeah, forget that. They didn't play well. I'm not trying to say that. On that 12-minute drive, Minnesota converted not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 third downs. J.J. McCarthy, who again, getting absolutely pillared by everybody in the league over his play and questioning whether he could ever be good, completes 3 of those were on passes that he threw. All were for like 12, 21, and 13 yards. How did that happen when they've been this bad? And it wasn't even like Justin Jefferson went off today. He was the one guy I thought, okay, if they can't control him, maybe that's where the game goes sideways. Instead, it was the tight ends had all 3 of McCarthy's touchdowns, passes. We've talked about this a lot. The fact that they've lost their defensive ends is just a killer. They did have at least 3 sacks early on. I don't have the stats in front of me. But, they didn't have much of a pass rush pressure on McCarthy, and when they did, they just couldn't quite get there. On that 12-minute drive, as we saw, Quan Martin was almost there on a play, but give credit to the Vikings fullback who knocked him away right before he was about to hit McCarthy. It was a 3rd down play. McCarthy ended up running for 7 in the 1st down, and things kind of took off from there. When you don't have a pass rush it is hard to do much. I'm curious to look at the tape to see what was going on with the tight ends. I mean, look, it felt like the Vikings had a lot of opportunities to kind of do what they wanted out there. Um, but again, when you don't have a pass rush, you don't have much of a hope, and certainly they didn't uh, today. Then you have on offense. Okay, so the Vikings score first. They go down the field, 7 plays, 61 yards. I want to say McCarthy to his tight end Josh Oliver, first of 2 touchdowns for Oliver. Okay, Commanders get the ball back and they march down the field themselves, and they get a lot of Chris Rodriguez running. Jaden Daniels was running. Now in the first half, I thought Jaden was s- running smart. He got down, wasn't getting hit. That changed after the second half, in terms of getting hit at least. And then, as I said, completion to Terry McLaurin. They were moving the ball. They got it all the way down to the 4 yard line after Rodriguez 15-yard run. First to goal with a 4. Rodriguez runs for 2. Last year, if Cliff Kingsbury had called a pass to the offensive lineman, as he did in that Bengals game last year to Trent Scott, we'd all been going, "Oh my god, what a play! What a genius!" All that. When you're doing it here, when this team can't win, when this team can't do much of anything, it seemed like an overly necessarily cute play. So they go for a pass to Brandon Coleman in the left corner of the end zone. Minnesota reads it. He's covered. Daniels throws it away. Third down, again, the ball's at the 2. They throw it again, incomplete. And then the fourth down to Debo Samuel. It's there. It hits him in the hands. Should have been a catch, I think, but he seemed to be stumbling right before the ball got to him, and he hit and it fell to the ground. And then from there again, the Vikings march down the field and take control. But I think I saw somebody here. Daniel said that he didn't love that sequence on offense, and I agree. I thought that was just too cute for where this team is at right now, and things just really never got going. Again, I want to see the tape because it looks like in the first half, Jaden had plenty of time. The Vikings didn't have a sack in the first half, only like a couple of hurries. They really weren't getting to him. But as he's looking down the field, nothing seemed to be open, or at least not to his eye. And so he's just holding the ball, holding the ball. When the second half started, the opening drive, Washington gets all the way down to the Vikings 19. They got help, right? It was a pass interference call. Noah Brown is back. He draws pass interference. That's what Noah Brown does. That was a third down. On another third down, they had the 12 men on the field. And then they go for the fourth and 1 at the 19 to go for the pass. No good, incomplete, or intercepted, I should say. Sorry. So I don't know what was going on here with the play, with the play calling or the passing, but nothing seemed to be working for them. So huge, huge disappointment there, without a doubt. And look, as I said before, you never say it can't get worse, and I'm certainly not going to say that now. At least, fortunately, it appears that Jaden Daniels came out of this game okay. And again, Quinn said he could have gone back in, but he made the decision to keep him out. That Jaden wanted to go back in. He also said that he anticipates Jaden playing again this year. And of course, he was asked. Oh, look, I get the injury part, but there's every game there's going to be a risk of an injury. The development part is key, and I think he means for both the player and the team. It's a tough. I mean, like, what do? You just wait for him to not play until next year? You keep him out of the preseason again? That happened this year, and I don't think went so well. So you just keep him out forever, and then he gets plays week 1. Then what? If he gets hurt there, I don't know what you do. So I don't have a huge issue with him playing, assuming that he was cleared and doctors saw all that. The fact that he landed on the left elbow is just how the season's gone, right? I mean, when it rains, it pours. So I'm going to stay with it's okay to play him if, again, he is cleared, and apparently he was to come back in. But the people who've been screaming he shouldn't be playing, and I heard from a lot of them. I heard from a um, former pro personnel director last night. We were texting, and he like, look, I don't get it. I wouldn't play him. You already know he's really, really good. So the thing that can bring him down is injuries, and that's a concern long term with his frame. But it's not about these next 4 or 5 games. You know what he is. It's about the next 10 to 12 years. I agree, but again, what do you do with that? He never plays again. He's in bubble wrap for the rest of his life. I don't know how that works. So it's a tough call on that front. Zach Ertz, that I've already sorry if I haven't said this or repeating myself, but Zach Ertz went out. I don't think I did say it yet. Zach Ertz went out with Mariota in. He jumped for a pass. The Vikings defensive back came in, huge hit, leads with the helmet, hits Ertz right in the leg, right around the knee. It looked bad. Apparently, it is bad. Quinn said they fear it's a torn ACL. And not only would that, of course, end Ertz's season, but the question is, what about his career? 35 years old. He's a free agent after this season. So, at a minimum, his future is in question, similar to like what happened with Marshawn Lattimore, torn ACL. Um, But at a maximum, this could be it for Zach Ertz. If it is? What a brutal way to go out. He's had really, really good run here with Washington. I think far better than I certainly thought they were going to get out of him when they first signed him. Big, big help for Jaden Daniels in the red zone, locker room leader. All that stuff is legit. And now, unfortunately, he's out. It does create the opportunity for Ben Sinnott to play. You would think logically, this is certainly not the way anybody would have wanted that to happen, but nonetheless, that's apparently where this is going. So we'll talk more about the Ben Sinnott aspect of this later on. And, I've been talking about getting in more and more of these guys, the younger guys in there. They haven't quite done that yet. Will this change? Will this latest loss change that? I mean, at some point here, you need to look ahead. And, again, Ben Sinnott playing is part of that, but that's by default. Are they going to make a more aggressive move toward that, i.e., hit Bobby Wagner or some other guys? So in any event, we will have to see where that goes, but a huge bummer for Zach Ertz. The locker room scene, library quiet is what I wrote in my story. I mean, we walked in there and nobody was saying anything. I mean, the guys weren't even really talking to the guy sitting next to them for the most part. Sam Cosmi was walked in, he was immediately to the left. His hair was like still sweaty from the game, and he was still in his, sort of his football undergarments, as it were, and he just looked all kinds of distraught and miserable. He wasn't alone. Everybody walking through there was pretty somber, without question. And you know, again, never say it can't get worse, but I think even these guys were like, "Man, you got to be kidding me with this! This was really bad." Excuse me. And so, give Yankoff time. Sure, I mean he'll play more as well. I mean, they're gonna have no choice on these fronts. So it's not enough to just keep saying, "Hey, the culture's good. These guys are sticking together." All that. While I believe it, they lost 31-0 to a team that was also reeling, but also only had 3 wins. I mean, Minnesota's defense is really good, but JJ McCarthy has been awful. They put up 31 points. So yeah. So there you go. There's nothing positive to say out of this. I'm not even going to try to spin anything for you. I'm all choked up trying to not say anything positive because I don't want to make anything up. All I can tell you is, of course, if you're listening to this, you know that we've already been talking about 2026. That's not going to change. Maybe continue to lean into it a bit more. There's 4 games to go, all division games. So that point is interesting. Sorry, you got to see the field. Um, division games always tend to be more competitive, no matter what each team is up to. So is there a shocker here for Washington? Can they pull off a win, whether it's New York or against somebody else? We'll see. They got to win the game though. Going to the offseason is already going to be bad. Going to the 12-game losing streak, that's beyond bad. And again, it's not, the majority of these losses have been non-competitive. So we'll see what they do. We didn't even get a really good look at the offense with everybody back because they just couldn't move the ball. So I think at this point, when I'm just kind of repeating myself and don't know what else to say, I'm going to cut it off. Plus, I got to get to the airport. All that said, I appreciate you guys hanging in there. Keep hanging in there. Again, It's easy to say this from my perspective, but the off season is going to come soon enough, and once it does, we have got a lot to discuss. The defensive coordinator, what happens with Cliff Kingsbury? Does he move on? What happens with all kinds of free agents? Who do they extend? What do they do with Deron Payne? And so on. So there's a lot to discuss. You're going to want to hear about it, and I like to talk about these things, and I get in deep with this. So stay with me, hang in there. Tell your inconsolable friends out there, come over here. We'll talk it out. We'll get through it together, and we'll figure out where the team goes from here. But I got 2 stories up on the site. Go check those out if you need more content. But that's going to be it for me for now. I'm going to duck out of here before they kick us out. Love the stadium, by the way. This is, of course, the place. Doc Harris hired the architects that did this for RFK2. Put up some videos earlier. Amazing setup here with the translucent roof. That's a great vibe. If they can replicate this, that would be a win, I think, for everybody involved. Sorry, the win on the field remains elusive. That's going to be it, though, for me for now. Hang in there, guys. We'll talk later. See you.